Ladies and gentlemen, we are on chapter 15 in the logic user guide. If you've ever wanted to really get a handle on this program and learn it in the most basic fashion, this is the best series for you. We're covering everything from top to bottom. And the best part is that we're actually showing you real world application. So if you're ready to take your logic skills to the next level, let's go. What's up, guys? How we doing? How we doing? Happy Thursday. I hope this transmission finds you well. I hope this transmission finds you in good health. And I hope this transmission finds you on the path doing what you love when you love. Hey guys, it's up to you how you want to do this, right? This is your live feed, so you make the decision how you want to live, think, feel, and do. Here we go. All right, let's get this thing going. Logic User Guide, every single day, Monday through Saturday. If you want to know when we go on, just hit that notification bell and we'll call it even. All right, customary to this channel is every single time something comes up and something is not clear on the user guide, what we do is we trace our steps in order to discover where the conundrum happened. So in the case of view channel strips linked to folder tracks in Logic Pro, we were going over the mixer and how to use the mixer in a much more customized and specific way than you might be used to. And so what ended up happening was we couldn't figure out a way to create what they refer to as folder tracks. You see how it says folder in the tracks area is represented by a channel strip in the mixer. So it says make sure that view folder tracks is chosen. So we did all kinds of stuff like go through the tracks area. I even created I packed folders in order to try and find it there. Couldn't find anything, so I did a bunch of research, and actually we covered this, but because the wording is different, it doesn't match up. You see, because what we were looking for were these folder tracks, but because they didn't use that language back on this page, the Logic Pro folders overview, then there was a bit of a disconnect. So here it says a folder is a region that contains other regions. See, what we were doing was just creating one folder with one track. And so what was happening is we were not able to look at this actual folder track that is created when more than two regions on different tracks are created. And I'll show you an example here in a second. But this is one of the reasons we would love to see this updated, is simply because there's these moments of disconnect here. So in order to see this, what we have to do is create or pack folders with two or more tracks. So let me show you what I mean. Let's bring you guys into Logic. Here we go. All right, so we're inside of Logic Pro, and something else that wasn't mentioned in the user guide, and I believe this is new to 10.6. I could be wrong about that. You can hit me up in the comments if that is any different. But normally when we pack folders, we want to control click and go to folder, pack a folder. You can hit the corresponding key command as well, right? So when we do that, see, now this happens, which didn't used to happen before. And what do I mean when I say this? Well, if you look closely, you can see that there's a folder here. And so this signifies that this specific region on this specific track is kind of in this folder state. But what's interesting is unless I haven't seen it, there isn't any documentation that tells you what this is and what it does. In other words, if I go back to the user guide, let me find that here. uh, actually, I'll take it back because I don't want to go to that page. But basically, there's nothing that talks about this new way of doing it, right? We could type in folder up here. In fact, let's just do that. Fine. Folder actually, let's just type in the word folder. Let's see if this can take me back. But the point is that there's no reference to this new way of doing it. So I'll go through all the various terms here. Good. So you see what I'm doing? I'm just searching folder inside the Logic user guide. And this is actually a great way to troubleshoot anything that comes your way. Let's see if we can find this. I believe it was around page 340 something. Let's see here. I'll make sure give you the right information. Bookmarks should have been somewhat after this. Work with folders. Okay, here we go. So it says it has to contain other regions, right? So then that's when this is created. All right. So then once we start looking at the illustrations, we don't see the new behavior, right? We just look at this, what looks like a MIDI region, but almost kind of enclosed. It doesn't look familiar. And so this is kind of, the issue is that the behaviors change, but since it's not updated, it's really hard to tell what's what. So what they kind of didn't mention and didn't really show in this chapter was you see how the region looks a little bit different. Let me go back to Logic. See, with this one, and bear in mind, this only contains one track. If I hit Command Z, so I have this region and this region on this track, and when I pack folder, it looks like this, which is different, and you can see how this can cause confusion. Now, of course, if I pack this one more time, what ends up happening is that we now find the behavior, but you have to pack it twice. Now, what's interesting about this is that if I were to, let's say, take these 4 tracks, these are all drum tracks, and I want to separate them or I'm sorry, I want to join them, but look at them on a different screen, if you will. I can pack all these, and now we get the folder track. So this needs to be clearly defined because look, even for someone like me, I've been doing this for 7 years, right? Certified through Apple T3 certification, the highest of its kind. I've consulted clients. I've worked for Apple, done a bunch of different things, and still, when it's not made clear, these are things that we have to kind of get through and figure out on our own. So and I understand it must be extremely challenging to have to continue to update and find the middle or the sweet spot between advancing the program and making it better for the users, and yet still kind of holding on to some of its traditional behavior. But I just want to be clear that that can be confusing because look, we still have this in this state, and I'm not sure if you would call this a folder in and of itself. But look, we can unpack that individual. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. But I just wanted to make that clear. That's where you find your folder track inside of the mixer, I believe. So let's see, if we go to view and we go to scroll to, or wait, I guess that would be maybe options, edit. No, we're trying to view this inside of the mixer. So yeah, see, folder tracks is hidden even though I have a folder track here. And so anyway, all this needs to be cleared up. It feels like to me, I could be completely wrong, but that a lot of these features are kind of set on the side as they continue developing the program forward. And of course, just certain things they're not tended to. And because they're inconsequential, they're not upgraded. And so anyway, I just wanted to clear that up. At some point, this obviously needs to be addressed, but it's not that critical. It's not that important. But yeah. Just wanted to make that clear. All right, hope you're well. Eddie Gray, we're covering chapter 15, if you could believe it. It's been a ride. I just want to be clear that, I never claimed to know everything about this program. There will be times when I space out and maybe I don't see the full picture, but the goal is to be as efficient as possible. And if I can clear something up, I absolutely will. This program continues to blow me away and really humble me. I really pride myself on knowing it, and there's always something new. I mean, I'm studying exporting right now, and there's just so many little details. So yeah, I commit myself daily to this, and I make sure that all of my students and clients, that they all are moving forward, and I'm trying to sift the important stuff from the non-important stuff. In other words, what's going to make the biggest difference, right? We're going over this manual. We're on page 601. What's going to make the biggest difference? All right, so let's get back into it. Let's see. We are way past this point. Hold on. Okay, automating mix and effects settings. Let's go. So we're going to start to get into automation. Probably the most important thing when it comes to really developing and making a track move, right? So what does it refer to? Recording, so we can actually automate and record at the same time. Editing, and playing back the movements of faders, knobs, and switches. So this can happen during different stages of the production process. This could be a note on and off feature where you bypass something. This could be the movement of a fader, maybe like a pitch going up and down. So many different iterations here. Using automation, you can create changes over time to volume, pan, and other settings. You can add automation to all track types. So these are the things that we need to take note of. You can create changes over time, okay? And you can add automation to all track types. Drummer, the patterned format, software instrument, MIDI, and audio, right? Fair game. Each track in your project has automation curves for volume and pan. And you can add curves to automate plugin settings. So not only do you have the ability to add actual automation lines, right, from point A to point B, but we can create curves to create authenticity, the natural dynamics of an instrument, right? So there's a lot that we can do here. And so the main point is that we're creating changes over time. Now, there are a couple of things you should be aware of. You can do this on a track basis or on a region basis. This is what you want to write down. So when I tell you what are the most important things, this is one of them for chapter 15. When I automate, I can automate the track or I can automate the region. When I choose to automate either per track or per region, I have to choose an automation mode. Now in Logic, there are a couple of them, the primary ones being really just 3. There's a couple other cool ones, but you only have to know a couple. Latch, touch, and read. And read is default, so really you only have to know 2. There's also another mode called trim automation, which I really like as well. And there's another thing called relative automation, which I really like as well. And then lastly, there's something called write automation, W-R-I-T-E, and I do not want you to use it because it can cause confusion, okay? But it does have a purpose, but I just want to be clear. What is the most important thing here? All right. So 2 types of automation. Let's go. Track-based automation and region-based automation. Track-based automation can be applied the entire track from the beginning to the end of your project. Region-based automation only applies to the specific region, right? We're only talking about that region and the parameters that is connected to. With track-based automation, if you re-record, if you move, if you copy either to another point on the same track or to another track entirely, the automation data remains tied to the initial point on the track. All right, so remember we talked about these things that we have to write down? This is another one of them. They're letting you know, right? Let's not be confused. With track-based automation, it is written to the track, okay? So when you move a specific region in that track, guess what? That automation will not be moved, will not be copied, will not be recorded, simply because you are using track-based automation. There are ways to convert track-based automation to region-based automation, and we will go over that later. But with region-based automation, if you re-record the region, the automation is lost. If you move or you copy the region either to another point in the same track or to another track, the automation remains with the region. right? So there you go. Massive, massive distinction, right? We no longer have to be confused about that. And we, of course, are going to check this out in a second. Region-based automation is particularly useful when you are automating instrument parameters. Okay, so they're letting you know, hey, hot tip. If you're recording instruments, if this is something that you're doing, you might want to use region-based automation because these parts can be specific to the instrument. When using based automation with instrument tracks and drummer tracks, and by the way, when they say instrument, I believe they mean software instrument. I don't think they literally mean like, a vocal or, you recording a cellist or something like that. That I would love for that to be clear. But either way, we understand track and region-based automation. When using region-based automation with instrument tracks and drummer tracks, pay attention. You can also automate MIDI data for individual notes. Okay, it gets a little bit more detailed. When we get into software instruments and drummer tracks, we now utilize a technology that's been around since the 80s called MIDI, right? Most of us hear that term and we kind of just take it at face value, but there's a lot more there, and especially with the inclusion of MIDI 2.0, which is coming soon, this world is going to change. Our world is going to change. In addition, you can also convert track-based automation to region-based automation, as Eddie Gray has told you in previous versions of Logic. There used to be something called MIDI draw, right? Gone. RIP. Now we are using region-based automation. So if you're coming here from a different version of Logic and you were utilizing MIDI draw, we've now moved into region-based automation. All right, let's start this process here. Let me bring you guys in. All right, Eddie Gray reading the Logic user guide. We're going to do a couple things inside of the Mix Convert Automation menu. Now, in order to pull this off, let me just go ahead and check sound real quick. Oh, plugins. All right, plugs. Let's turn some stuff off here. I'll turn on these 3 by Leapwing Audio. Yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, so this track is something that we started when we first began this entire, I don't know how many weeks it's been, I got to be honest. I just show up every single day, regardless if I am up, down, left, right, sideways, it doesn't matter. We show up, we do the work. So yeah, this song is starting to take shape. It's still in that kind of post-demo form, but who knows? Maybe at the end of this process, we'll actually make it something that sounds pretty solid. So if I hit the key command A, I'm inside of the automation window. It's always on, by the way. It's kind of always in the background. And if I have this on, then my track is going to read the automation. If it's off, you're in trouble because it doesn't matter what kind of automation you're utilizing. This is not going to be read. So let's apply a little automation to kind of give you a sense of what I'm talking about. And something I want to point out, if you guys are looking at track number 4, it's the only one of the bunch that's a little bit different. And I'll give you a second to guess why. Like, how is number 4 different than all the rest of them? And I just want to be clear, we're looking at the track header that contains all of your tracks. So what's different about track number 4? Well, if you look at the blue square here, it says track. And so this is where we get to designate if we're utilizing track-based automation or region-based automation. Now, all of these say track-based automation, but the difference is this one is actually disabled, it's turned off. So we're going to go ahead and enable that, and all of a sudden now we look at what would be conceived as the normal behavior, right? So that's great. If I go ahead and draw my first automation line, you'll notice the behavior changes inside of the left channel strip here. All right, now it's on, it's colored, whereas before there was no color there. So if I turn this off, right, nothing is being read. If I have automation, it doesn't matter because it is not being read. You want to make sure that this is on, and it's on by default, but I just want to be clear about this behavior because my job here is to steer you away from confusion and to bring you straight into your power by having clarity so that you could work on your music and you can be the next Mozart. You guys know that's my goal. I'm really committed to it. And over at hfmusicacademy.com, we are aspiring to serve 10,000 modern creatives. You can imagine this would take a serious amount of effort and concentrated work. So yeah, thank you for being here and thank you for sharing the videos and thank you for subbing. So automation, we're ready to go. What is the next step? Well, let's say that I make some fairly aggressive decisions, and all I'm doing right now is I'm drawing these nodes, N-O-D-E-S. I'm just doing this manually with the pointer tool, the primary tool that comes with Logic. I don't necessarily have to select it; it's already there. But you might have a bit of an easier time utilizing the automation select tool. And so, like, for example, if I wanted to select that one, it's a lot easier to do, or these two, if I wanted to select those two automation modes and move these around. Because if you try to do that kind of stuff with the pointer, it can, I don't know, be a little, I mean, you just saw I made that weird mistake there. So that's that. But I guess as far as some basics go, you want to start drawing in some nodes. You could double click directly on the automation line or point, or you can double click away from and basically create a node away from the automation line. So I'll click up here, double click, check it out, 1, 2, 3. And then now I've essentially created a curve going up to that node. So let me Command Z all this. You can see how all this is working. Great. All right. So you can also utilize the pencil tool, which is a bit more fluid, and I would recommend if you were trying to do something really dynamic. Now, I'm currently utilizing a setting inside of my Snap to Grid that's called Snap Automation, right? So you can see that it says automatic, and this is cool sometimes in terms of like really creating a defined point, like you know exactly where you want something to go. But if you want something a bit more natural, then you're going to want to deactivate that. So let's go here. Let's go to active. And this should look a little bit cleaner. Yeah, there we go. All right, good. Let's see. Anything else to be said about that? Just want to make sure that let me turn this off. I want to make sure that nothing is influencing. Yeah. Okay, that looks good. All right, so let me hit TT, brings me back. So let's say that we want to convert this track automation to region-based automation. Why? Well, for whatever reason, I want to move this to a new track and add some effects. So, of course, when I bring this over, right, I'm going to drag this down here. Well, it's funny. It brought everything with it. It says in the manual that it's not supposed to do that. I wonder if that's because I had that on. I doubt it. No. Okay, so that's kind of a mute point then. So up here it says if you move or copy regions either to the point on the same track or to another track, the automation data remains tied to the initial point on the track. So this is wrong because we just literally moved it over and everything was good. I'll tell you what, let's practice that same concept with this one here. Except I'll use region-based automation. So now you could see that I'm performing automation with this, okay? And it's kind of embedded in the region. It has nothing to do with the track itself. So again, I guess I will try the same trick. If I bring this down to the next track, look at that. Is it the opposite? No, okay. It exists inside of the region. So that's pretty sweet. So the difference, I guess, would be what then if I'm here? Let me bring this down. Okay, I see what's going on. So actually, it looks like it's right, but I guess there could be a little bit more information because the automation data is still copied over. I'm not sure if that's because I have some kind of, maybe it's because my settings under mix, they say when you move track automation, just do it always, ask, or never. So let's try switching that over to never. And I'm not sure if they're going to go over this in the user guide, but these are things that we have to kind of experiment with if we really want to get this right. So, okay, in fact, let me go all the way back to square one, which is here. All right, we have track-based automation, region-based automation, and under mix, under converts. No, where was that? Where was that? Show. Here we go. Never. So I'm going to say don't ever move track automation. All right, so if I bring this down, let's see what happens. Oh, okay. See, this, yeah, we have to preface it by saying that because this can be misconstrued, right? So if we have region-based automation, if we bring this down, what happens? Hold on. Yeah. Okay, so that, I believe when logic arrives and you first buy it stock, perhaps this feature is set to never. I personally like to always move it, but you never know. Maybe I should set it to ask. Let me go and set that to ask from here on out. So now we understand the differences here. This is not necessarily wrong, but needs to be made clear. So what I will do is I will insert just a little question mark here. Again, I'm putting it in the space. I'm planting the seed that Edgar Rothermick updates the logic user guide. We're on page 602. Eddie Gray reading the logic user guide, brought to you by hfmusicacademy.com. So right now we're going to convert automation between regions and tracks. So at the moment, you're looking at region-based automation with this specific. Okay, let me bring this one down. Okay, so look, it's asking me, hey, do you want to move the track automation data? Well, theoretically, it's region automation data, but who's counting? Cool. All right, so this is track automation data. I'm up here, and I want to go to mix. I want to go to convert. I want to say, hey, can I convert the visible track automation? So whatever's on the track, I don't want it to be track automation. I want it to be region automation. Let's go. Boom. All right, you can see that we've converted that over to region automation. If I go back to track automation, you find two nodes surrounding the left and the right side of that region. Two nodes, N-O-D-E-S. All right, let me Command Z that. We're back to track-based automation, region-based automation. And so let's see, we go to mix, and there are key commands for this. I don't use these that much, so I'm not going to use them. But yeah, you could do the same with region automation and track. What else do you got for me? Convert all track automation or all region automation. So what this means, it's pretend that we are using track-based automation, and we're doing all sorts of stuff like, implementing gain and, playing with the effects, yada, 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 yada. And if I hit Command Y and I toggle between all of these various automation parameters, we can also click on the automation parameter window here and check these out. But the best part is, check this out, is that if we, again, hit Command Y, we can toggle, but we can convert all of this automation, everything, not just the volume, not just the gain plugin, not just Antrasol by D16, which is, I believe, a kind of phase or flanger. It's been a while. The most amazing part is that we can convert this automation all at the same time. So we're currently utilizing track-based automation. Let's go into region automation. Boom. All right. Command Y toggles. I want to be clear that you can also utilize, let me see, P, Y. You can also utilize that button right there to toggle these various settings inside of the piano roll, but I'm up here in the track. And so then, we converted everything to region-based automation. And this is great, as mentioned, because if I drag this over to another track per se, or if I even drag it to another position, it says, hey, do you want to move this? It should just say automation data. It says track automation data. And then you're like, yes or no, and do not show this ever again, because some of you are sure-footed. You want to do this no matter what. In this case, I'm going to move it. Let's corroborate that. Everything exists inside. Yes, I love it. This is great. I love it. This is so clear, so simple. Let's go. All right. I do want to Command Z as much as I can because okay. yeah, I want to keep this song as pure as I can because, like I said, at the end of this whole thing, I want to master it and kind of go from there. So this all makes sense. We have assignable key commands. Let's keep moving. Show automation curves. All right, before you can add automation points to a track automation curves, you need to show the automation curves. Okay, how do we show them? Automation curves are displayed as colored curves and points on top of the audio and MIDI regions across the track, running the length of the project. You can choose whether to view and edit automation across the track. We've already talked about it, track-based, or region-based automation, which is within the track's region. Think of it as being burned in. After you show the automation curves, you can choose which parameter you want to work with. Volume. Do you want to work with pan? You want to work with EQ, a low cut, a high pass? Do you want to work with a chorus? Do you want to increase the intensity of the saturation? You can work with multiple parameters on the same track by switching between automation curves using the automation parameter pop-up menu, or you can work in separate subtracks, sub lanes, which appear below the main track. All right. So let's get into it. Show us the automation curves. So it looks like inside of the automation parameter pop-up menu, when you dig a little bit further, that all of these appear in the track header. So for example, if I hit key command A, we can see panning available here, right? Let's say we wanted to utilize mute. And if you look closely, in fact, let me zoom in on this track, and I'll hit Control Z to zoom on this track. You can see that the color changes depending on if I have mute selected or volume selected. Looks like I wasn't able to select pan and record an automation. It looks like they're calling this an automation curve, which is pretty confusing to me. I think it should be called automation line. I just want to be clear if that's what they're calling it, though. Yeah, I think it is. All right, so basically, most automation modes are going to have different background colors. So, for example, if it's gray, then basically automation is off. So you can see that. Let's see if I turn it off here, right? It means that there's nothing happening. Okay. If I have, let's say, read automation turns green, touch is yellow, latch is another color. Okay. All right. Mustard is touch, orange, and then this taboo write mode is in purple. All right, let's keep going. 603 logic user guide. For read mode, however, the button and text color display the current state of the automation and if there's automation data present. So with green text on a gray background, the automation is on, but there's no existing automation data. So green text, gray background. So we're looking at this to be clear. So automation is on, but there's no data. So in the case of this one, we know that's not true because I have automation data. So we're not able to. But look at the track on top of that, my good friends. Track number 3. The text is in green and the background is in gray, right? This one has automation data, and so that's signified there. So that's pretty cool. I'm actually thinking about this. I from what I can recall, because we've been doing this for a couple weeks, this actually came up a long time ago, and I'm not sure if we were able to clear it up then, but better late than never. Okay, so what else we got? White text on a green background, it means that the automation is on and there is existing automation. So that's cool. Great little distinction there. I actually like that a lot. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. Good. As some of you know, I'm creating what I believe to be the best logic resources in the world. I'm going to make them available to everybody that's subscribed. So if you're interested in some resources coming soon, I already have about half done. Yeah, stay tuned. Go ahead and share the information, and you're going to enjoy this great resource. All right, so let's continue on here. Any existing automation is displayed on the track or within the regions. If you show automation on a collapsed track stack, all the automation from the included tracks is displayed. You can choose the parameter you want to automate, as we've talked about. from the automation parameter. So there's some, I want to make sure this is not a throwaway sentence. If you show automation on a collapsed track stack, all the automation from the included track is displayed. Let's see what they mean here. I don't know if I have any track stacks on this particular sesh. I don't, but let's make one here. Shift Command D. Oh, this has a folder. So when you have a folder, it looks like you can't do that. That's interesting. Shift Command D. All right, let's create a summing stack. And let's go wild here with some automation. Let's just kind of do a couple things here. This one, I will pan. For this one, I will mute. And again, they're all going to be colored a little bit differently. You see how this one's in blue, right? So you can mute something if you wanted to. And then lastly, with this one, I will solo something. Solo. Boom. Okay. All right. So orange, blue, green, and yellow. Now, what if I wanted to do something else with another parameter, like let's say the compressor here, wanted to change my attack settings, right? It just continues on with a different color. Okay. So let's collapse the track stack. We don't see any automation. Of course, as soon as we open it up, we do. Now, if I click here, it's letting us know that there's no automation on the track stack as a whole, but of course there's automation within the individual tracks, right? So that's kind of an interesting way of looking at this. If I see, all right, yeah, I think that's good. All the automation from the included tracks is displayed. Okay, so yeah, I think what they're saying is like when I collapse this, and you know what, I really need to zoom this in now. Do you see the background of the track stack? There's all these lines and you know, different things going on here. Well, the reason that's happening, my good friends, is because each and every one of these tracks that's nested inside the track stack has its individual automation. And so when we collapse it, Logic is basically just displaying that information inside of the track stack. Let me Command Z this. I definitely have to undo all the work I do on this session. Okay, Command Z, Command Z. Oh, geez. A lot of undoing. Okay, cool, sweet. Back. Okay, so we're going to now switch between these two. As I've already showed you, you can basically click on that button right there, and that will just take you back. I believe there is a key command for this as well. Okay, moving on, choose the parameter to automate. And actually, hold on, let me just see if there is a key command before I move on. Track based, see, let me type in the word based. Nope. And I guess I'll just type in the word region. All right, yeah, I don't know if there's, or maybe toggle would probably be a better way of doing this. You can toggle a lot of stuff. Toggle selected track. I don't see it. But I'm pretty sure they would create something. All right, let's continue on. Choose the parameters to automate. All right. So in the past, we used to do and find automation parameters in this way. We used to have to access the automation parameter pop-up menu and then sift through all the various parts of the software instrument or plugin. It was quite, what's a nice way of saying this? Detailed. You don't have to do that anymore though. There's a much more efficient way of doing it. Let's go over this and then I'll show you the easy way. So choose automation parameter from the automation parameter in the shortcut menu that appears. Control click the track lane, then choose the automation param. I don't know if that's true. Hold on, are they assuming? Hold on, let me just see something. If I control click here, there's no automation, is there? No. I'm not sure what that part means right there. Control click the track lane. I assume they mean the actual lane here, but again, I don't see automation. I believe this is incorrect. and it says to control click. So I don't know, maybe they're talking about, nah, that doesn't look right. Yeah, I'll try one last thing. Oh, okay. So it actually is right. So what's not made clear here is that the automation has to be on. So of course, if we want to choose the automation parameter, we can do that. So this is, I guess it's a given that the automation is on. So key command A, or you can hit that icon right there. But it looks like there's another distinction. So we can select the automation parameter from this menu, but if we go into the track itself, or the track lane as they called it, we can control click it and we can access the automation parameter here. So that is pretty sweet. That is a really, really nice feature. Let's go ahead and highlight that. That can just drastically affect your workflow. Let's say you're like working on pan or something, and then you control click and you're like, good, now I want to work on the dry wet signal of the reverb. I mean, that's sweet. I like that a lot. Great job, Logic. So yeah, the parameter currently shown in the automation lane is shown at the top of the automation parameter pop-up menu. So when we click here, this is what we're currently utilizing, right? And it's also displayed on there. Below the Smart Controls sub menu, the automation parameter pop-up menu contains a sub menu for each plugin on the track. So essentially, you're going to see the other plugins. So you see how you have the ability to turn this off, or cycle through, or toggle through the various parameters. You can also access, the instrument or the compressor or the EQ inside of these menus. Let's see. Looks like they're talking about are numbered after the slot position, plugins 1. Okay, yeah. So then this is going back to that same thing where you can find all the plugins in here. When using region-based automation with an instrument or a drummer track, a MIDI subtrack. Okay, so now they're saying, hey, if you're using region-based automation, something different is going to happen. You're going to see a MIDI subsection that is available with MIDI parameters. So for example, with my bass track here, if I hit the key command A, I'm inside of region-based, not track automation. We won't see it here. Inside of region-based automation, now we can access the MIDI, right? So that's pretty sweet. The same goes for piano roll. If I go into region-based automation, we can access those settings here. Awesome. Let's keep it moving. Looks like there's more than 24 unassigned key commands that you can use to select automation curves of various region-based automation parameters directly. Okay, so we know how to do that. When you select one or more regions and then use one of the key commands, the chosen automation curve will be shown on all tracks with the region selected. If you use one of the key commands without any region selected, the selected track will show the chosen auto. Okay, so it looks like there's a bunch of key commands that will allow you to do certain things to these regions. Let's just go into the key command window to try and find one or two of them. Automation. So let's see, what are they offering? Toggle automation quick access. That's a great feature if you haven't checked it out. See global, no. Let's go into automation. Here we go. Toggle track region. Cycle through use parameters. Display off is shift command Y. You can turn on and off snap automation. Okay, yeah, I think these are pretty sweet. Check these out. It says here that you can create one track automation point at a region border. So I have that set up as Control Shift Command 1. So let's and that's track automation. So let's pay attention to this. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to select just one of these. Let me make sure I'm selecting just one. Okay, so Control Shift Command 1. Look at that. See what just happened? It created a node at each border, the left and the right. And so then now all I have to do is go up and, oh, wait a minute. That doesn't do what the other thing does. Okay, so let me show you what I was thinking. When you use the marquee tool, you can click and drag up and down, and that allows you to work with that specific region, even though you're using track-based automation. But I still like what just happened in terms of creating that. Let's see, creates 2 track automation points And I have that set up as the delete key on the extended keyboard. So let me click on that. I'll hit the delete key. Boom, check that out. Now I can do what I did before without necessarily having to access the marquee tool. Looks like we have create one track automation point at every region border. That's Control, Command, 1. Let's check it out. 1, 2, 3. Oh, nice. Now, this is only good if you're going to, do this kind of thing where it evolves over time. But probably I would use the next one, which is Control, Command, 2. Let's check that out. Control, Command, 2. All right, now we're talking. We can increase or decrease the volume of, let's say, this region or that region. This is sweet. Yeah, very, very much in love with these two. Really, really cool. If you want to delete redundant automation points, so I believe if you have one on top of the other, you can do that. Let me see if I can demonstrate this. Now I'm nerding out over automation points. You got to love it. So let me see if I click one there and I just kind of put one over the other. So yeah, if I then use the key command Control and delete, you can see that it deleted those two. Did it delete all of them? I would need to check. Does it delete everything? I just want to make sure. Control, delete. Yeah, it looks like it just deletes everything on there. So I may need some more information. Oh, you know what? Maybe if I had just selected the two, I'm not sure if that's even relevant, but let's just pretend I select them. Control, delete. Let me do that one more time, but this time I'll have other points. And so I'll just drag in one more point over, and then only these are selected. So Control, delete. Now that just deletes everything. Okay. Delete visible automation. So this is Control, Command. So anything that you can see. So let's say I have various parameters on. Right now it's just volume. But let's say I have some stuff going on with this one. I don't, but let's just say I did. It's only going to delete the automation from what's visible. Okay. Delete orphaned automations. I believe this is like automation that's like way out, like away from the pack. So if you have stuff that's like at the end of, and you're not even using it. Anyway, let's keep going because there's so much here. All right. So yeah. So I just introduced you to the old way of doing things, right? The new way, which join them, use both of them, right, to become a Logic Pro Power user. But the new way is really interesting because now we can go into the mix menu at the top of the menu bar, select auto select automation parameter and read mode, which is crazy and should always be on because now it shows the automation in the main automation lane, and the automation mode must be set to read in order for you to utilize this, which it's on by default. So you good. Then what's going to happen is that it's going to update automatically. Look where it says note. When auto select automation parameter and read mode is active, record automation with MIDI regions is disabled. Record automation with, okay, I got to see this. So let me just introduce, and I'm particularly interested in this because I actually like this new feature, new to 10.6. But hold on, let me go back. All right. So mix, click. All right, enable auto select automation parameter in read mode. What does that do? Again, inside of the automation window, I click on any parameter in any plugin, and what happens? But boom, it updates automatically. I'm going to click on the input gain. I'm going to click on the knee of the compressor. I'm going to click on the mix knob or the wet dry. I'm going to click on the output gain, right? It's endless. Now, this doesn't apply just to Logic plugins. From my understanding, you can also select parameters inside of third-party plugs. Let's go. This is beautiful. Beautiful. So I got started in Logic 9 and like towards the tail end, right before they switched it up with the Logic 10. And man, we used to have to do this manually. It took a long time. And yeah, I know I'm spoiled because like I just came into the game and all of a sudden it just like was just so fruitful and amazing. All right, drummer and all these new ways of creating track stacks. I mean, in the past you used to have to go from my understanding, to the MIDI environment and do all sorts of crazy stuff. And guys, I'm learning so much more every single day. I've recently started delving into the MIDI environment window and just, you know, just be aware that more content is coming soon. Okay, so then let me clarify here. Auto select automation parameter in read mode is active. Okay, so when I have this on, basically I can't, it says I cannot use record automation with MIDI. Record automation with MIDI. What does that mean? So if I'm here on this track, and why don't I create a track alternative? When I click and hold, see how it says record automation with MIDI? It says that it, wait, does it say that it's not going to work? Oh, it's just disabled, but I'm pretty sure that we can wing it, can't we? Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can. We got to try it though. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, let me so basically while I'm recording, I'm going to just play with the low and high cut. Let's see what happens here. So remember that the only reason this is happening is because this is on. I don't have to touch any one of these other things. I'm soloing. I'm going to hit record, and let's start moving this around. All right, yeah, I can see it pretty clearly when I go into the track that, oh, wait a minute. Was that not recorded? Looks like it wasn't recorded. I want to corroborate this. Let's press play. Oh, this is interesting. Check this out. So it doesn't look like anything happened. And let's see if you can figure out why. I'm not going to answer it right away here. Check it out. And you're like, what's going on, Eddie? I don't see anything, right? Like, I don't see any, I'm inside the automation parameter. I don't see what's going on. Remember that we're utilizing a MIDI region. And again, this is not even that clear. I got to be honest. If I go into region, now this is where we can find all of the information that we just embedded into the file by enabling record automation with MIDI. Let me disable that because I don't need it anymore. Now let's listen to the fruits of our labor. Well, that's pretty sweet, and that's a really, really good distinction that I particularly hadn't thought about. But yeah, thank you, Logic Pro. Let's keep moving here. We can mute if you wanted to. You can mute something. Click on and off. Oh yeah, so let's see. You can mute an individual automation parameter. Oh, so we just did a whole bunch of stuff to the EQ. Let's say that for whatever reason we really wanted to, I don't know, not hear peak to frequency. We can actually just bypass that. It's still recorded, but it won't play back. Does that apply for every single one of these? Wow, that is money. I like that a lot. Thank you so much. It's amazing. So place the pointer over the automated. So yeah, this needs to be highlighted. This is a really, really interesting feature. I guarantee you nobody knows this. This would be a great topic of conversation whenever you're talking to your collaborators, friends. Like that's, I guarantee you nobody knows that. That's a wild one. When okay, good. And it's interesting. The language is the automation curve for the parameter will turn gray. Just find it interesting that they call it the curve, because when we think curve, we think a curve. All right, let's keep going. Show multiple parameter curves with the sub tracks or sub lanes. So you guys know that I just did a whole bunch of tricks to this particular part of the region, right? If I hit the disclosure triangle, which you can find right there, guess what? We no longer just have to toggle. We can open up that sub lane and now check out everything live, right? Why is this important? Well, let's say you want to change something, right? Let's say you want to make minute changes over time is something you could do here, right? And of course, these are adaptable. You could change the parameter if need be. It's all good. So yeah, really fine feature here, utilizing these lanes. If you want to X one of these out, you could close it out. Of course, you can add more automation parameters if they exist within your automation. All right, looks like we can reorder these as well. Like if I want to move this one to the bottom of the group, you can do that, right? Want to raise this one up because I need to, I don't know, A/B it next to the peak to gain. All of this available. Amazing. All right, let's see. Tip: you may find it easier to work with automation curves at a higher zoom level. Right there goes that language again. To do so, drag the lower edge of the track header downward. All right. So if you want to resize something, basically just hover over using the pointer tool, the bottom rung or edge of any track or automation lane, click and drag downwards and or upwards, and that will accomplish that. From what I remember, there's a key command that does all of this. There's been so much information in my head to begin with. Yeah, I believe if you hold, I want to make sure I give you the right info. Yeah, if you hold Option, this happens to everything. The only issue is it doesn't make everything uniform. So depending on where its current zoom level setting is, it's just going to kind of increase from there. I'm wondering if there's some kind of modification I can hit that will make them all uniform. I don't see it. I'm trying out all of them, but yeah, it looks like we just have one. So cool stuff. Let's keep going. 607. Looks like we're going to talk about automation modes. Let's talk about modes, and then we will call it a day. So look, automation modes determine how automation tracks are treated, right? How are these automation decisions going to be treated? It's either going to be read or it's going to be written or recorded. So the read mode is default. So just kind of get that out of your mind. You only need to learn how to write the automation for now. You can independently set the automation mode for each track. So that's really nice, right? If you want to use latch automation for one track, you can do that. If you want to use touch for the other, there's reasons to do so. Something, again, not often talked about, trim automation, which I utilize all the time, right? What does this do? It allows you to basically offset your current automation choices. So let's say you made a host of different choices throughout your track. I don't have to necessarily go through each node or select everything. I could just bring everything down or up at the same time. Really nice feature. So again, read plays back all the automation, right? If something exists, the volume fader is basically going to move during playback. You will see this live. Things are going to be moving, just like you saw the EQ earlier, right? Panning will move, plug-in parameters, etc. You can't change the value of the chosen automation parameter by moving controls when in read mode. So unless you're utilizing offline automation, you can't actually do anything in read mode. It's just reading the information. However, you can record region-based automation directly into a MIDI region in read mode. So this is going back to what I just showed you earlier, right? If you're in read mode and you enable record automation, I forget the entire name. So let's see, we're on an audio track, so we won't see it. Record automation with MIDI regions, then you can do that. Okay, let's learn about the actual automation modes. What does touch do? It plays back the automation in the same way, right? Nothing changes in that regard, but you can modify the value of the chosen automation parameter by moving controls in touch mode. Now, here's the most important part, and the only part you have to remember, all right? Because I'm not expecting you to remember, let's see how many pages, we're on 603 or something. I'm expecting you to remember the main points, and if you're not really good at recalling information easily, whether short or long term, then write it down. And if you write it down, it can exist at your desk, in your bedroom, in your studio, wherever this message may find you. So touch mode, after the fader or knob is released. After you release the fader in automation, the parameter follows an existing automation on the track. So basically, once you let go of it, it's going to follow the existing automation. So if you had the level at 0 and you raise it up to 5 and then you let go, it'll go back down. So it'll ramp back down. Okay, latch. It's like touch in that basically you're going to, be reading the information, but after the knob or fader is released, something new happens. The new parameter value replaces and so this is like really like difficult language because it doesn't have to be like that. Basically at the most basic level, and let me hit Control Z to zoom that. I need to, okay, hold on. Let's resize that. Okay. So it's really simple, and I'll do it with volume, and I'll do it while it's muted because I just want you to understand the idea here. So we're in track-based automation, and when I utilize latch, what's really fascinating is that basically I'm going to be making a decision, and look at what happens when I let go of the volume knob. And by the way, I'm touching the volume slider here, but I can as easily control it here or in the mixer, or I can control it using one of my faders if you have that kind of game. So let's go ahead and press play and start adjusting this. Okay, so utilizing latch, I started at 0, right? But I let go of the fader at 31. And so that is latch automation. But what's really interesting here is now when I'm in, let me see, where's fairy phrases? Got away from me. Here we go. All right, now when I'm in touch, something much different is going to happen. All right, and by the way, notice I'm not hitting record, right? That's because once you enable the automation mode, it's on, it's ready. All right, so let me press play. I'm going to let go now. Oh, you see how it ramped back up? It could have ramped down if I started with a negative value. So I made my decisions, I let go of the parameter, and boom, it shot up back to the original default value, which was 0 decibels. Let me Command Z all this stuff. I got to save another session before I completely botch this one. Cool. All right. And by the way, this is just a quick side note, but if you ever got, we're in a situation where you wanted to save something because you were going to experiment, you can create project alternatives the way you always do, but you can also just save a copy as. And so I'm going to preserve this copy so that we can actually make some music later. Master. All right, cool. I'll hit Command D. We want to save this as a folder and just make sure that all these assets are included inside of it, right? All right, cool. All right, so I'm still in this session, to be clear. We're not utilizing that new one. And I showed you how latch works, right? I don't even want you thinking about it. Basically, the only thing that it does that is useful, and I wouldn't even utilize it, is basically just erase all of the automation, right, as it passes through. It just literally records everything, re-records over it. And then it says here that it records the new control movement or deletes the existing data if you do nothing. So I don't want you to waste your time with it. Here's trim. So let's say made all these decisions as I have showed you before. Let me hit TP to access the pencil tool. Those are unique to me, just to be clear. Those key commands, I set them up in advance. And if I hover over there, we see trim automation, and then I can just create an offset, either lower or higher. Lower or higher. So many cool things in here. It's amazing. Relative. All right. So you can see I've made a bunch of decisions with automation. I can add a secondary automation curve that offsets the existing primary curve. Why would you want to do that? Well, let's say you got a nice curve. You like the overall dynamics, but it's just a little too loud, right? Then you could use the secondary curve, as they call it, to edit the original curve. This is available with touch, latch, and or write. So if I go, let's see, here, relative. So now you can see that it's on. Okay. Nothing has particularly changed. That's because it needs to be used in combination with one of these modes. And I'm only going to highlight these two. This is how serious I'm about this point. I don't want you to know anything about write because it's just not going to be useful right now. I want you to have an efficient workflow, right? This is what becoming a Logic Pro power user is all about, being efficient. All right, so let's use this in combination with latch then. So I've enabled relative, and then now latch is back on, but notice that the behavior has changed. Now we have relative latch as opposed to when I disable this feature, now we just have latch. So this just becomes a second measure that allows you to make choices. So let's say in the case of this region, which I will highlight here, I like the curve, but it gets maybe a little too loud here. Sure, we could just grab this, but I don't know, maybe this can ruin the performance, right? So we'll utilize latch, or relative latch, should I say, to bring this down a little bit. Let's do it. Okay, so you see what happened here? So when I click on the automation parameter menu, now we have this new little insignia, and then we're using relative volume, right? So now this is relative to the absolute volume. Now if I click over here under main volume and we go under relative, we'll see that that's the same thing. It's another way of accessing the same feature. Last thing, the graphics will change and look a little bit different here. Now, if we just want to read all this information, we can do that, and we're back to our default mode. And of course, we have just utilized absolute volume and relative volume here. So pretty sweet. All right, so yeah, how do you set these up? Basically just, click on that menu, select whatever it is you want. There, it looks like you can set the same automation mode for selected tracks by shift clicking. Then you choose a mode. You can also do this in the fader. Why is this important? Well, let's say all of the drum tracks need to be automated. We could create groups, but again, another thing you could do is just shift click and select latch for everything, and then, whoa, it looks like everything is on. Is it supposed to work that way? Read. I thought it was for the selected, but no, it looks like it's for everything. Let me just select read. Oh, now these decided to not change. Hold on. Read. Okay, good. Let's change these. I'm going to hold shift. Latch. No, this is weird behavior. This definitely needs to be updated. Okay, good. So this is kind of right. Shift click track headers to select them, then choose. Maybe I'll try one more time. Maybe I wasn't supposed to hold shift. I think that's what was going on. I held shift and it changed everything. If I don't hold shift, okay, all right. Thank you very much. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, so if you want to change them all, hold shift, and if you don't, then just select the tracks themselves. There's a ton of key commands here that you could check out on your own time. The only ones that I like to utilize is toggle the current track between latch and read, and I set my track up. Look at track number 2, Control Option Command L, and that basically just takes me to latch mode. I actually only use latch mode almost exclusively 90% of the time. So it's up to you how you want to do it. But trim automation showed you how to use that. And choose trim from the automation pop-up menu, either T-touch or T-latch. Wow. I didn't know about that. The volume fader moves to a certain sensor position. So wait a minute. Let's check this out really quick. So it looks like we can select trim. Okay, cool. And then you can select, wait. Oh, wait, here? No. How do you access this? Choose trim from the automation pop-up menu in the track header or the track's channel strip. I don't think you could do it from, oh wait, you mean here. All right, so I've selected trim. Awesome. Oh, and then do I have to select relative as well? No, it's either one or the other. And then, okay, I got that. Either T-touch or T-latch appears in the automation mode display. What is this based on? If the volume fade, well, I guess if you're using, okay, I see what's going on. If you hit, man, this is like, I swear, like Rubik's Cube sometimes. So if you are selected, if you've selected trim, right? And then you do that in relation to latch or touch, Then you'll see T latch, right, which means trim latch, or if we're here, T touch. If you're using relative, you're going to see R touch. Okay, that makes sense. And then again, the difference between these two is that trim is going to just create an offset, whereas relative is just kind of like a secondary volume. And let's corroborate that by going back up here. And you see how it says trim offsets the value of the existing automation by adjusting it up or down by the amount you move the fader. So this works in combination again with touch and latch, whereas relative adds a secondary automation curve. So this one is directly dealing with the original, manipulating it, changing it, whereas this one is just a secondary offset. Both the primary and secondary curves are visible and can be edited. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, we've talked about how to use all this stuff, so that's great. Record, yep, I showed you how to use record automation. Let's look at the note. I always find that there's useful information here. When you record automation with MIDI region is active, auto select automation parameter in read mode is disabled. So yeah, I think we tried it and it still worked. I don't know if this is an older feature or something, but it seemed to work. Let me show you what I mean. If I'm in my MIDI track here and this is on, and theoretically, if I click on any parameter, it should not show up in the automation window. Let me do that now. Oh, all right, cool. Well, it worked there. I thought we tested it out last time. Yeah, so it looks like this is true. Oh, geez, Louise, I'm starting to think about something. Oh, man, I swear, guys, after weeks of doing this, my brain is like exploding with logic. It's oozing with logic information. Like I'm starting to put the dots together. That is really cool. Let me just highlight that because I just think I made a realization. I was in a session the other day and I remember something like this happening and I thought it was a bug, but I see what's going on. If this is on, it disables this. If auto select parameter is on, then it disables that. I think that's kind of the main idea. I'll have to read back on that in a second. Okay, I think we're going to call it there. And actually, I just want to check on this one more time. Record automation. I think we looked at this a little bit earlier. I hope you're enjoying the content. If you find it useful, all we ask is that you sub, you share the information, hit that like button. Really appreciate your time. It's been quite the journey. So here it says, when auto select automation parameter in read mode is active, record automation with MIDI regions is disabled. Record audio. Okay, yeah. So basically, if you turn one off, it's going to turn the other one off or on. So that's just how it works, depending on what you're doing. So anyway, I just wanted to be clear about that. So the next time that we meet, which will be tomorrow, and if you hit that notification bell, we could just get right back on the saddle. We're going to be talking about adding this automation. Now, a lot of this, again, often overlooked. There's two ways of doing this, so the blue and the red pill. And if you really want to take it next level, I will see you tomorrow. But I'm telling you, there's so many little details that everyone, and I mean everyone, avoids, or just simply they just don't understand, right? And look, I never claim to know everything, but I do claim to want to help and contribute and just be here and be consistent and do this every single day. As I've mentioned many times, that I am learning so much in the process. So I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to be here. Again, they call me the Logic Sensei, and that's not because I know anything more than you. If you know what the word means, it just means he or she who has come before, right? And so I've been doing this for 7 years, and in that time, I've been able to do so much with this program. And guys, the sky is the limit. Let's keep pushing. Let's keep learning. Let's keep growing. And let's make sure that we keep our frequency high. I'm going to see you guys tomorrow. Stay up. Let's go.